Good evening, and thank you for all attending tonight's meeting. I just want to make mention that I've appointed trustees Flanagan and Torino as liaisons to the Mayor's Village Governance Committee to better inform the trustees and residents of the committee's work and their findings. The next Board of Trustee meeting will be on December 15th. There will be only one BOT meeting in January. It will be held on the 12th of January, and if necessary, special meetings can be called for. I would now like to open up the department call upon the department heads, beginning with Commissioner Jackson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing on the agenda. Just like to bring a couple items up. We are collecting toys for tots. The last day, Marines are coming on December 15th, so if you have gifts, please bring them to the police station by December 14th. And we had DWI patrols funded by grants over the weekend, and we had 4 arrests. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next is Fire Chief Matthew Kearns. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees. The department has nothing on the formal agenda. However, I'd like to bring a few things to everyone's attention. In the month of November, the department responded to 93 total alarms, 84 of which were signal 8s, 6 were general alarms, including 1 house fire, 1 extrication call, and 2 mutual aids to surrounding departments. Also, as people may have seen on our social media accounts, the department will be once again conducting our Operation Santa throughout the village in the week starting December 12th. Details to follow on our social media pages, so please be on the lookout for those. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
I think you had an excavation today, right, by the high school?
There was an overturned auto. Luckily, the driver was able to salvage it.
Yeah, is everyone okay?
Everyone was shooting
Okay,
it.
thank you.
And this was not the high school, Chief?
Yes, on Rockaway Avenue.
Thank you.
Well, that's good news, that everything was okay. Yeah, that Santa thing, that going around the village, that's really something that so many people look forward to, so thank you for that.
We're happy to do it. Residents love it, young and old, so hopefully you see everybody out there.
I love it.
Just don't stay too long in front of my house, okay?
No promises.
You can stay in my house, that's right.
Thanks. I don't have any kids around, so. Village Treasurer Irene Wu, is she on Zoom?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, trustees. Tonight on the agenda, I will have a few transfer of funds. Item number 1, these transfers were requested by the village administrator, and we will discuss these little on tonight. And that's all that's on the agenda for finance.
That's it? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions? No? Okay. Next, Village Superintendent Giuseppe Giovanello.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. The Building Department has nothing on the agenda for this evening, but I just wanted to bring to the Board's attention on a few of the major projects that are happening throughout the village. The larger projects in the village are moving fairly nicely as far as what's being done. I'm sure most of you have seen 555 Stewart Avenue. Just their completion date is scheduled to be completed July of 23. They're moving progressively well as far as finalizing that building. It's been going on for a few years now, so hopefully they're towards the finish line. 901 Franklin, their completion date is March of 23. 1111 Franklin, the old Sears building, their completion date is June of 23. 1415 Kellum Place is just before Christmas, those should be done, so that's should be near completion. 36 Cathedral, the Cathedral elevator project, they finally received the roof from Portugal this week, and they're working on that project. That's scheduled to be completed within the next month or so. The Garden City Library, that's progressing well. There should be completed within the next few months, early spring. That should be all done. And that's all I have for this evening, Mayor. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a silly question. On 555, is it now at its maximum height? It seems like it keeps growing every time I drive by.
That's the maximum height of the building, is 45 feet.
So it's 5 floors or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Giuseppe, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
Is there any possibility you can get an update on any of the eating establishments? I'm getting really hungry, so what will they be done?
I'll work on that.
Just have, yeah, I noticed a lot of the road work on Stewart Avenue, Leadville. What is actually going on there? It's all the way down towards Roosevelt Field, but it started, you know,
As far as,
east of.
that may be not us, as far as the road work, that's probably utilities happening on Stewart Avenue there, right? Ralph?
Yeah, that's it. I saw the trucks yesterday. It's not our crews, and I'm not familiar with anything. It's probably county related or the utility related. County roads. So it's
Yeah, because they were doing work, I guess it was last week, east of Franklin, digging. But I couldn't see who it was because they didn't have a lot of rental trucks. You know, I was just curious, and then there's more going on.
Yes, I can tell you though, let me just take a guess at it without being, know if I'm right or not. The Y-49 power cable that comes out of Westchester, comes across the Sound and lands at Port Washington, it sinks its way through Roslyn. It passes through Garden City, goes down Stewart Avenue to the power station east of Clinton. So I think that work is all, they did some work by Coverage Place, which had been done before Memorial Day. It's a three-phase project in Garden City. But there's been work on Washington Avenue and over there, and I believe it's the cable.
Okay.
They're upgrading the cable and putting in vaults to maintain that Y-49 cable.
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank you.
That's, I believe, the same work they're doing on Clinton right now, right before Country Road Route. They put in that vault to get their lines in, so it's similar. Yeah.
And we got Commercial Avenue paved, I see.
Yes, it's a really nice job.
Yeah, good.
I want to thank our contractor did a great job.
Yeah.
It starts with our engineers who identify the problems. I drove down there the other night when it rained very heavily. And
No flooding.
there was no flooding. There's a drain at the easternmost end, which the contract notified us is clogged, has to be cleared out. And there's a puddle in there, we're cleaning that out, but it looks beautiful.
Yeah, that's good work, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Next is Commissioner Paul Lake. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Recreation has nothing on the agenda this evening. Be happy to answer any questions. I do have an update. As Giuseppe did, I have an update on the capital project. The new liner for pool number 1 has been completely installed. The job was done on time, on budget, and the work was terrific. So we're all set to go for the spring. That's all I have.
Good news.
Hey, Paul, the trees that we're gonna get put in the fall, are they done or are they possible?
They were, if you remember, we just awarded that contract at the board meeting on the 17th. We're in the process of getting contracts finalized, and our nursery manager was called today by the nursery to go out and tag the trees. He's going to try to get them in before the planting season ends. If he can't, he will bring them in starting March 1st, which is probably better than trying to get them into the frozen ground.
Makes sense, thank you.
Good idea. Okay, thank you. Next, Legal Counsel Gary Fishberger.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing on the agenda. I am happy to report that finally the 1200 Franklin Avenue lease has been, or license agreement, I should say, has been finalized. There was a little bit of a hang-up with some of the insurance language that got corrected to our satisfaction. And we're now, today I spent a good deal of my morning with the library director trying to go over her needs for the security contract. They got a copy of a contract from the security company that was just terribly unacceptable, so we're gonna go back and try to straighten that out.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay. Next, but not least, Mr. Ralph Swanson.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, members of the public. Mayor, there's 8 items on the agenda this evening, and I own 6 of them. So let's start with number 1, the transfer of funds that Ms. Wu mentioned. There are 8F. The first is $4,960 to Source of Supply Power and Pumping, maintenance of plan from the Water Department Contingency Fund. B is $3,300 to transmission and distribution, maintenance of plan from the Water Department Contingency Fund. $75,000 to purification, maintenance of equipment from Water Department Contingency Fund for booster pump repairs at the 12B water plant located at the Garden City Golf Club. $20,000 to administration, IT, maintenance of software from contingent. E is $10,000 to administration, IT, materials and supplies from contingent. And F is $10,000 to the central garage, maintenance and planning from contingent for garage door repairs on the DPW barn. These doors, by the way, I think there's 19 of them, or 18 of them are being currently out to bid, and they'll be for full replacement as soon as we get bids back in, I think, next week. So that should be on the next agenda, hopefully, and that's one of our current capital projects. Number 3, on the public works, masonry facade restoration, the new roof system, Village Hall. We have some change orders. Change order number 4 is for $18,000 to clean the decorative stone. That's the stone that goes around the windows. Change order number 7 is for $14,900 to patch 10 cracked decorative stones. Change order number 9 is for $9,215 to install caulking for approximately 500 linear feet of the firehouse roof. And change order number 10 is for $25,300 for power wash and clean approximately 700 linear feet of the caulking stone. That's the stone on the top of the building when they're done with the caulking. So the building have a fresh look and the stones will match. Item number 4 is a maintenance bond for curb, sidewalk, and road improvements from the contract last year, the 2021 contract, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry. Board authorization is requested to accept the maintenance bond from Road Worker Heading, who's the contract for 2020-21 road paving program. This maintenance bond guarantees completed work for 18 months from acceptance of this bond. This bond is for $2,584,349.96. Village Council has approved it as to form. Item number 5 is to ratify the purchase of equipment and vinyl cutter from SNF Industries Incorporated. So every year, during the budget process, the most recent one that most of the trustees here participated in, one of the items in the capital program is the DPW equipment. That value of that was $990,600, and there was a couple of trucks in there and some other items. Tonight, I'm asking for a change to that. We want to remove 3 items from the contract, and we want to add on a piece, a vinyl cutter for our street lighting and our road striping area at sign shop. That's a $5,990 purchase. We want to remove a concrete breaker for a backhoe at a value of $19,000. We want to remove a cement mixer at a value of $6,800. There are 2 cement mixers there, but we are getting one, not the other. A snow plow for a payload at a value of $14,000. All in all, with these changes, we're actually reducing the capital ask for this year by $33,810. Item number 6 is for wells number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Those are all 10 of our wells. This is a transfer of funds to engage USP Technologies, requesting to transfer $15,000 to purification, materials and supplies from board contingent to cover the cost to upgrade the LP sites for the remote monitoring of peroxide storage tank inventory. So all the LP reactors that we have require peroxide to be mixed with water, which is how the UV light gets rid of the dioxane, and then we remove the peroxide back to water. The peroxide tanks, this allows the USP company to automatically monitor them and know when to refill them versus having our guys to go around and measure them and call for refills. This is for all the well sites, except for well, including well 9, although well 9 won't be active until the spring of the LB reactor. So that's what that's for. And the last item is number 7. It's just an award bid to award bid to Best LED Group, the sole bidder to item number 100 for a total cost of $224,930. These are for our LED lights around the village. Any questions?
Well, that they were the sole bidder. That's unusual. I mean, it seems like a pretty vanilla type of RFP, and I would think you'd get a number of responses. Was there something about the RFP that just yielded to one bid?
It went on contract report, a New York State contract report, so it's open to the whole world. I don't know why there's only one. It usually doesn't happen. It used to happen a lot before we used New York State contract report. So.
In number 4, the 18 months, is that standard? It seems a little brief.
It used to be 12 months, we expanded to 18 months. I'm not sure if we can stretch it out any further. I would ask Village Council if he knows of any long periods of time, but 18 months was an extension from 12 we had for many years. And you'll know usually within a year, by the way, when something's failing, so 18 months is pretty generous for a road contract, I think. And we do it for all our contracts.
It is pretty generous, actually.
Is there Any update on the crosswalk enhancements? We were gonna change what's out front at Village Hall. I don't know if you remember, we had discussions about a few crosswalks in the village. One of them was the one out here. I've had people crossing more often now than I used to. I didn't used to see pedestrians. Now I see people crossing in front of me with dogs, like they're coming from some store over here. Has any progress been made, or are you familiar with that issue?
The crosswalk here, you'll have to refresh my memory, we do have a crosswalk right out here in front that goes over to the 7 North Parking Field, and it has signage on both ends, the neon signs identifying of the,
Right, we were gonna enhance that.
we want to put flashes on it, but they're probably on order.
All right, we don't have to spend any more time, if you can just check that.
I'll send an email to the
Yeah,
board on the
just so
status of that.
Thanks.
Ralph, I have a couple of questions on item number 3, just really quickly. H, this change order to clean decorative stone and chemical-free product at a cost of $18,000. How much area is involved for the $18,000?
Hey, I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. I don't know if it's on the change order itself, which is in the back.
But where's this decorative stone? Is it around the windows?
May, that the decorative stone is all the casing around the windows,
That's right.
any windows, doors, and what have you. And the other change order was the coping stone perimeter of the building.
And the reason to clean the stone is it's in,
You have the discoloring of the stone with all the trees and everything else. It's like the stone is black, so they want to power wash it and clean it up with the
okay.
environmental safe chemical.
We also added some new stones down below by the planting beds on the east side of the building, which they're brand new, so it'll help blend and it'll be better. It'll look refreshed.
It's just, we installed a new brick, so just to keep everything clean,
Yeah.
it's just give it a wash. It's doing all this work, I think we really should enhance the building.
I understand, but there's just some cost things that just struck me. Item C, when they do the sealant work, are they gonna do baccarat too, in addition to the sealant work?
So that 500 linear feet, that's basically the caulking that goes between the metal roof and,
$20 a linear foot,
right,
that's sort of high. Are they doing baccarat? Are they
They're-
taking everything out, cleaning it all out?
yes, yes.
Is that
They're gonna
the process?
completely scrape the old caulking, baccarat it, and seal it again.
And make sure that it's baccarat.
Yes.
Then-
I was actually on the roof, Mayor, I witnessed it, it's all peeling away, which is weathered by the sun and everything else, so that they're gonna scrape the whole thing. We measured it's about 500 linear feet, and they're gonna do the whole thing around the roof.
And then the last one is this one, the power washing, the coping stones. That's like $36 a square foot. It's quite a.
Well, they have the man lift outside, which that costs to rent. They have to do the man lift.
Right.
That's included with the service. That's X amount per month or whatever it is, and that's included in that fee.
So they're broken down that way?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
But can I ask a question slightly differently too? So what Tom was saying, should this have been part of the original bid? I mean, the one thing we're trying to do, right, that we're gonna clean everything off, should this have been something they had actually spec'd out before, and we would have known about this, or is this just popping up that this is something?
You're talking about the cleaning?
Yeah.
This is extra.
It wasn't included in the bid.
It wasn't included
So
in the bid.
we're,
Hold on, you said it was, and you're saying it
No,
wasn't.
it wasn't.
cleaning was not included in the bid. We had, this project was originally $1,515,000 for repointing the entire building. That amount was based on the square footage of the visible building. When we actually brought professionals in to look at it, we tailored it to only the areas that needed help. And some of these change orders where upon close inspection, there were additional cracks. We have some new stones out, so the cleaning is really to tie a nice bow around the building when it's done, so it looks fresh and new. If we eliminate it, we'll have miscolored stones. It's an aesthetic element versus a structural element. But it wasn't part of the original scope, and the scope is greatly reduced from what we anticipated spending.
So it's definitely nice to have.
It's nice to have, yeah.
Makes sense, but the
Yeah.
other stuff makes sense, so that's fine. Any other comments or questions?
Just number 7, again, what Trustee Kelly brought up. Is contract reporting, you think, the best way to, get bids on that as opposed to RFPs?
So what we do is, we put in, Contract Reporter is a free service. It's a New York State website. So a lot of people use it. One of the last bids we had on the last meeting, 94 people viewed it, so it's getting great viewing. The way we did bids before was we put it in the local paper and we called a couple of people. So if you don't get to go and see news, you're restricting your viewership. We passed the legal milestone of publishing it, and then we called as many vendors that we could find in the industry. So the sole bidder occurrence, there were some products like the water side, there are some places where sole bidder is possible. On things like lights, Trustee Kelly's right to ask the question. Lights are a more common thing, but I can't account for why only one person bid. So the only thing we can do is not award this and bid it again and hope for 2 or 3 bidders, but it's, we did what we had to do legally.
On number 7, again, it appears from the substantiating documentation that there was also a request for poles, for which there was no bid on.
That's right, there's no bid on the polls. We're putting it out for rebid.
Now, the 100 luminaires that we're getting, are they just basically in storage, or is there an intent to replace them on existing light fixtures?
So it's probably a combination of the two, sir. I don't have an inventory in front of me, but we have thousands of lights in the village. We have about 456, give or take 2, that are not LED. So I believe this is to replace the ones we have today. The new inventory that is part of our NYPA grant will be a bid that's going out, I think, either this week or next week, for new poles for Nassau Boulevard and Stewart Avenue. Those wooden poles will be coming down. We'll be putting up 2 armed poles on Nassau and metal poles on Stewart, and they will come with their own lights on top. The new LED lights are, I believe it's one purchase, so it might be a pole and luminaire that's separately put together, but that's what's coming in next. This is just for, I think, our regular stuff.
2 questions, Ralph. First one, do we know if any of the municipalities are having problems like this when looking for a pole and sending out a bid and not getting any response, or getting one response on lights?
I wouldn't know, sir.
Would it be worthwhile to see if we could reach out to other communities to see if they're having similar problems, see if something's just affecting us?
Yeah, I'll reach out to a few, but like I said, it's an oddity, but the engineer put it out. We've done it before. I don't know if there's less players because of because we've seen that too. Some people got, like restaurants are closed. Some people got out of the market. They've been glommed up. I just don't understand why we didn't get the bid. But certainly it's not because of exposure, I believe. But I'll reach out to Floral Park and some of the,
And last question, on number 6, this remote monitoring, how much, $15,000, but how much do you think this is going to save us by having the remote capabilities?
Well, first of all, it's one less thing for our men to do. We're already understaffed, number 1. Number 2, the OP reactors absolutely need this stuff, and right now we're running with, when we're in full operation, we're going to have 6 of these reactors going, and that's 6 peroxide tanks. And during the summer, the amount of volume goes up from like 2 to 3 million gallons a day, or about 2, so now it's going to go up to 9 to almost 10 million gallons a day, so we're going to go through at a faster rate. This is be automatically monitored, so there won't be any question about it being delivered.
Today, how much?
It's $395 a month. This is $15,000 will carry us through May. But the full year would be close to $30,000. But to me, it's an insurance policy. It's something that we already have a contract with them. This was something I added on. I wanted to get it going for the coming pumping season.
So then this is 15,000 only gets us till May, so it's 6 months, so it's 30,000 for the full year.
Yeah, I can only spend money through this budget year. So this is an estimate, it's $395 a month for the remaining 6 months of the year, times 6 well sites. But some of the well sites aren't active, like 15 and 16 is not operating right now, so this is probably generous. We'll probably have money left over here. I probably need about 11 of it. 8 and 12 isn't operating yet, 9 isn't operating yet, so when we're in full force, it'll be 6 peroxide.
Any other comments?
Okay. Thank you. Are there any comments on agenda items? Comments on this time only on agenda items? Anyone in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? And we go into the approval of the meeting. Oh, sir.
I just had one for,
Please state your name and.
sure, my name is Ed Finner in 301 Franklin, just for Commissioner Giovanni. Could you give us any update on the inhabitants of the, or expected inhabitants of the former Lord and Taylor building and the Sears building? Do we know our leases, or, I think I've heard that Morgan Stanley's taking the second floor of the Lord and Taylor building. Thank you.
It's not an agenda item, but May, you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry, but I.
So I can answer that.
Thank you.
We're out of sync, but let's do it.
We're out of sync. I apologize, I'll be quick. But yes, you are correct. Morgan Stanley is taking the second floor. They committed to the second floor. They had actually a situation with their contractor, and they're out to bid with the new contractor to actually clear out the space for them. So that's still in the pipeline. Hopefully that happen at the beginning of next year, or sooner. But they haven't come to us with any building permit application as of yet. The first floor is possibly going to be either ambulatory or office space. They haven't come together with any floor plans and documents so far, but it's in the mix. All we really know is the second floor is Morgan Stanley, yes. Okay?
And then the Sears building is all.
The Sears building is going to be
NYU.
NYU,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Let us continue now with, any other comments on Zoom, Karen?
No, Mayor.
Okay, good, let's move on. Let's continue tonight's regular Board of Trustees meeting with the approval of the minutes of the previous Board of Trustees meetings. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of November 17th, 2022? Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special board meeting of November 22nd, 2022?
So
Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Good, let's move along. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Is there anyone who would like to remove an item from the consent calendar for discussion? No. Haven't seen that? Okay, let's continue on. Excellent. All in favor? Let's make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Moving along. Have a rapid pace. Okay, we'll finish with all the agenda items, we'll finish with the consent calendar, and I would like to finish with the with non-agenda items. So I open the floor to any citizens who are present to discuss non-agenda items only. Please state your name and address. Non-agenda items. You're the only one?
This could be a record.
Chris, come on. We got started.
Professor Vesalotti.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Robert Vesalotti, 32 Brixton. I guess everyone's running out for a beer after this or something? There seems to be a major rush. I don't know. But did we miss number 8, the discussion of,
No, we're gonna do.
that's going to be at,
Comments first, yeah.
oh, comments before that? Oh,
That's what
it's
the mayor
8 and
called.
then 9 for
Well, he
citizens.
called for citizens.
Okay, okay, that's why I was confused, so. I guess you're going to discuss that, so then maybe I'll have my comments after that. But I would just like to say that, I know we had this discussion, I guess a week or so ago, about the railings around the trestles and the bridges of the Long Island Railroad. I know there's some forward action happening on that. And perhaps a sidewalk that's going to be by Cherry Valley, by the middle school on the eastern side of Cherry Valley as it passes under the railroad there. But I just would like to call your attention that that place is just constantly flooded. Tonight it's flooded, you know, and it's, and I know they painted some lines on that road, but I'm not so sure how well they painted the lines on that road by Cherry Valley as you go past the school there. It seems like something's a little off, and especially as you're heading, north on Cherry Valley, as well as you're heading south, as you pass the middle school. I don't know if all the lines are marked properly, the widths, I mean, there's just something a little off with those lines, and I guess that was the county who put those lines on there. But I think we should just, again, re-inspect that area for the appropriate dimensions and spacing of those lines, as well as the edge lining near the administration building. At night, it's a little like where the lines go, and where's the edge of the road, and then you got the puddles and the mess, and it's just a little bit nasty over there. And as we add poles, since that conversation came up tonight, it might be good to have a little more lighting where that crosswalk is, by that middle school. It tends to be pretty dark. Not to mention this one here is pretty dark. The sign that sits in the middle of this road here by the administration building, that says slow, you can hardly see that sign at night.
Wait, what sign are you talking about? Sign out here?
Yeah, as you cross the road here,
We're-
there is a
we're
sign
work-
that says,
We're working on that, I mean, it's
Yeah.
a situation, we understand that, we've discussed it at prior meetings, there's three or four different crosswalks that we addressed, and we believe there's some equipment on order, we want to make them more visible, we want to make the pedestrians more visible, and we want to make the fact that there are crosswalks at these places more visible to the drivers. The drivers aren't all horrible people. If they knew there was a crosswalk there, they'd be much more likely to slow down and stop. We have to give them more notice.
Right. And, I've been on the committee to observe that study with Creighton Manning in the estate section, and I think this is an ideal place for a speed table. They have these really nice brick speed table designs that just raises the road a little bit, allows the pedestrian to be seen a little bit, and forces you to slow down as you cross it, because they do kind of speed from Hilton to Stewart, Franklin, and from Franklin to Hilton there. So it could be an ideal place for a speed table.
That's interesting, yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Okay, so, thank you.
And we have been looking at the underpasses and the railings there. It was a little shocking to me to see that the Chestnut Street underpass is similar to the Denton Avenue underpass in that it's a very low curb and there's no railing there. The railing is prior to the underpass, and I didn't realize how low the curb was at Chestnut Street. So we've been surveying the 4 or 5 underpasses we talked about, and hopefully we're going to get something started on that. So it is something that's being looked at.
Any other comments from the audience?
I did notice, I know Charlie's looking at it, the underpass by Cherry Valley. You were speaking of the east and the west side of it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Turkey tried to walk on both sides, and they did pave it, but there's a lot of, it doesn't go all the way to the end. I noticed that, there's a lot of dirt and rocks and so on. And I'm wondering if we can have some sort of sidewalk there, if that's permissible. But then it has to end because the right turning lane is approaching to go up towards 7th Street. So that it wouldn't be, you'd have to figure out how to
Yeah,
continue.
but if we just get them to that sidewalk that runs up
Yeah,
alongside of the admin building,
yeah,
that's where people want to go.
definitely,
Because it's very few people want to go all the way down to Stewart there, they want to get to 7th Street.
absolutely.
So I think if we
That'll
just get a
work.
sidewalk that gets them to the cut through,
That'd be great,
then I think that we've remedied that problem.
I agree.
I think, Mayor O'Brien, we talked about this, I think I mentioned publicly a meeting or 2 ago, but John Barone and I talked about this, he's gonna be designing a sidewalk from the 6th Street intersection where that crosses over to the Adelphi side.
Yeah,
We've talked to the county about it, we expect them to do the actual ADA compliant ramps, and then we go to line with their sidewalk and go underneath and connect through the administration building entrances and exit, and connect to the existing sidewalk that,
Oh, good.
that ends on the grass.
that'd be great. I think that'd be appropriate. Thanks, everyone.
Could you also ask Mr. Barone to determine if the roadways have the capability of using cast eyes in the roadway to differentiate that there is a crosswalk as vehicles approach? I know that certain problems exist with them in locations that have snow, but I thought they had been changed somewhat.
Any other comments? From the audience or on Zoom?
Yes, Bob Oros. Mr. Oros?
He's on mute.
I unmuted him.
May not be aware of,
Mr. Oros, would you like to speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good, thanks. Yeah, two quick questions pertaining to St. Paul. One, I believe that the stabilization process is complete. Is that true?
The roof work that you did was part of the stabilization, right? That's been done.
That's been done, yes. Okay. Yes, the roof portion of the stabilization is complete, if that's what you're asking, Mr. Oro.
No, I'm asking if the stabilization on a complete building is done.
So, Ms. Oros, the originally defined stabilization project included the removing the stained glass windows in the chapel. That we ran into problems with insurance, and then it's been on hold. Also, as the systematic stabilization happened, things like removal of line, they uncovered other windows, so that were not known to be broken, so those were fixed. So the originally identified stabilization program was done, and then there was some extensions for some things like other additional broken windows, but the windows portion of the original stabilization program was not finished.
So we're still waiting then to complete that first stage.
No, there's no funding remaining in the original capital project. Those funds were used to repair the roof the second time. That sealed the building from future water damage.
So how are we going to go forward if we don't have the funds to do it?
I believe while the current process is going on with the committee and the discussion about the future posture of St. Paul's to the village, I think that's going to be on hold.
So apparently abatement is not even an issue as of yet.
There was a $1.5 million abatement budget put into the capital plan that has not been started. Like I said, that would have to be, the abatement would have to happen no matter what happens with the future of the building, unless nothing happens, of course. So the abatement budget was set 3 years ago. It might be a good amount, it might be too little, it might be too much, I don't know. One of the things that has to be done is an assessment of the items to be abated. A bid spec has to be prepared and has to be put out for competitive bid, which we're not doing right now.
So that's on hold too. Okay. I just hope the public is kept in information goes out readily. It's becoming more transparent as to where we are and where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Does anybody else? Anybody else on Zoom have a comment?
Can I just comment on Mr. Oros's last statement? The information that was just spoken to him has been said publicly before. Just for the record.
I realize that. Now, Karen, I think we may have missed something on we have a discussion here regarding the Country Life Press.
Yes, you can have that now, yes.
Ralph, you want to start that conversation, please?
Yes, Mayor. So the Long Island Railroad is pursuing a lot of capital projects, raising the trestle over at Cherry Valley. We're all familiar with the third track project, unfortunately, and they are also looking at reducing some of the maintenance costs. This is, I think it's really MTA has taken over most of these capital initiatives. The railroad has some voice in it, but not control, I believe. Anyway, since we're spending a lot of time speaking with the railroad, this topic came up. I went down there and looked at the building. Mr. Bellmer was there, the mayor was there, Mr. Jamel was there. And they said this is going to come down in the future. And so, you know, we took some pictures, we thought about it, but recently it came to our attention that it's going to come down very soon, and they want to know if we were going to try to step in and preserve it or not. We didn't know the timetable, their timetable at the time. Nonetheless, it's unlike St. Paul's, where it's our building, we've had the time to let time go by and think about it. This is something that's under control of the MTA/Long Railroad, and basically they're giving us till December 15th to to tell them whether we are interested in preserving it, or else they will commence procuring demolition services and abatement. So I didn't put together a deck. It's really that simple. It does the, you know, barring the numbers and the discussion that happens, it's a binary decision. Do we want to take over maintenance of the building as an open-air pavilion? I think is the simplest idea, not as a functioning train station, or let them tear it down and put shrubs there, and or possibly a bus shelter type pavilion. So
I thought the scope was to do a hardscape and put one of those aluminum plexiglass.
yeah, I actually have photos. I have the 2 photos they gave us. So Mr. Vassalani, Mr. Bellmer in the past have all donated photos. So I just put together a little 6 or 7 slide thing just to show you the building as it was when it was built, as it is today, and what they plan on doing. So you can just go to the. So this is the building probably in its heyday.
1919.
Yeah.
Wow. It was built in 13, I believe. Ms. Vassalani sent a night. I went through all those links, except the last one was locked down for some reason. There's a lot of good history there. So if you go to the next slide. This is another photo from a different angle. Go to the next slide. And there's another historic photo. And these are pictures Ms. Spinola actually sent today. I have my own photos, but they were convenient today. Thank you, sir. And this is today. I mean, the grounds were overgrown. The paint isn't a spectacular selection. And the next slide. This is the problem. The water damage that is inside is caused by the roof failing soffits. Next slide. Just different angles of the same type of damage. And next slide. Okay, so this basically shows the general building. I mean, Mr. Giovanelli can probably tell you more about what's happening here. So they plan, the railroad plans on, their plans are to abate it, that go in there, remove the lead paint, any asbestos might be there, demolish the building and dispose of it. And this is one choice. They would either do a hardscape with a large bus shelter with a metal roof, and the next slide shows it without the building. So these are the choices they leave behind. I believe the landscaping that they have, I didn't show you the landscaping chart, but the landscaping they leave behind, they would expect us to maintain, I believe, which something Mr. Blake would have to say in. So that's basically all I have from a slide standpoint. Mr. Giovanelli sat down, we talked about, I do know that the cost that the railroad has identified for this project is in the 600,000 plus range. I don't have the exact number. They haven't gone out for procurement yet. I did reach out to Mr. Fasano, our liaison. He works with our other liaison, Mr. Garcia. I asked him for an abatement number, if they had any hard numbers on anything. He originally came back and said the abatement was about $250,000. Then within an hour he wrote back. He said, "Ralph, the number that was too high. Our number is 166." He said, "Of course you'd have to get your own estimate." Mr. Giovanelli and I talked about it. We think it's kind of high for that size building, but nonetheless, it's a number we can at least put a pin next to.
What about the cost of repairing the roof?
So the roof has some penetrations in it, the tree branches, so it's got a couple of holes in it, a lot of water infiltration was in the building. It's got the tumbling roof as far as the sheeting, so that's gotta be replaced. The asphalt shingles is completely to be redone. The gutter system on the building needs to be done. A couple of the soffit areas, lumber, needs the roof.
Rafters, just cosmetically, the whole roofing system has to be done. On the inside, it does have to be abated. There is a bathroom in there. I mean, it all depends on what we plan on doing with the building, conditioning or not conditioning for just a shelter. The walls and stuff like that, the drywall's gotta be redone and so forth. But it all depends on where the board wants to go with the building as far as what to spend. When I sat down with Swazi, we actually came up with a ballpark number for the building, anywhere between 300 to 350. We'll get the building to actually total to put it in a shelter, not as habitable space, but just as shelter.
Just an open area.
Open area, right.
No windows, no doors, no heating system, no, it's just a.
Just lighting and security.
Yeah.
We have to have lighting there, I think.
So we have to put some security, some lighting, and so fit safety and code requirements for the building.
Can I ask a question? So one of the things we talked about here is having it be ADA compliant with the ramps and things like that. Is that something they're gonna put in regardless of the decision we take on the building, or is that something that's also up for discussion?
So, when I first talked to Mr. Fasano about this a few weeks ago, I thought maybe we get them paid for the date, this has had to be done either way, and then we could take over the next steps, but he told me, and I haven't bounced this up any higher, I did call Mr. Garcia, who Mr. Fasano works for, just to see, I mean, we could probably engage in a discussion, but they told me, Mr. Fasano told me, that if we take on this project, that they're gonna take the entire $600,000 and move it somewhere else into the system. I don't know if you heard the news reports yesterday, but the MTA is broke. So they're gonna move this money somewhere else and use it for another part of the system. They call this a 4-tier station because of ridership. It's been closed for over a decade. But they do want to take it down. I don't know how swiftly they'll do, but I think it'll be done by the spring. I don't know how long the procurement will be, but it'll be done this next year.
Well, just for record, right? So Karen, thank you very much. It's Thursday, right?
Yes.
Is the session. So what I think we should do is we should actually talk to the people that live in the neighborhood and see what they want to do about the structure. Having commuted out of this station for the last 20-some odd years, the location of this building is about as inefficient as imaginable. And the funny part is when you look at the pictures that were actually proposed, it made sense. Can you go to the picture, please? Keep going. Go to the first one, the old 1919. That one, awesome. Notice that's at track level. So at that point in time, there was no elevated platform. So this thing's all the way at the far end of the platform. And knowing how people take the train, no one, unless you're on the 504 train out of this place and you want to go to Brooklyn, no one sits at the front of that station. Everyone goes to the middle or to the back part of it. Also, notice that that's at the ground level. That means that there's a chain link fence actually between that structure and the actual train. So talking to a couple of people that actually live in that neighborhood, the potential, and they're already having issues with kids hanging out below the train tracks over there on Chestnut, proposing putting a structure there that could be another place where kids could hang out, I think would drive those people over an edge. So, and again, having spoken to Commissioner Jackson on what that might mean, because it is kind of very quiet little pocket of the village, that, might actually attract other people. So I would suggest, let's talk to the folks in the neighborhood, let's see what they feel about what they want to do here. And maybe this is something that's outlived its life, right, given where it is, because it made sense. Right there, when it was at train level, and you could walk in and out, and the platform, the train probably stopped right there, like it does at Garden City and Nassau Boulevard and Stewart Manor. It was probably awesome, but this is from 1919, so it was a couple of years ago.
Did the Long Island Railroad always own it, or did we own it? I was just curious.
I don't know. It's full history. I don't know if the owners here, but
They own it now.
it's their property. They're responsible for it.
Who's responsible for the shrubbery, because it does get overgrown often?
I don't know. I mean, the way it looks now, I think in the past when we did the sidewalks, we called them to cut the shrubs back, but I think Paul's guys might go down there and help out more than they probably should.
Yeah, we do a major trimming and cutting every spring in there, and we ask the railroad to come in and take care of the high trees that get up by the power lines. They came in this year and did a good cleanup for us because the shrubs were just horribly overgrown. And Nick Fasano has always been very helpful to us. He got a crew over there. But he will tell you they are 6 to 8 months behind on their shrubbery work. And so we do have to go in there and help them out and keep the platforms open, the stairways open. It's a matter of public safety. We don't want our residents falling. So our guys will go over there and do it from time to time.
I think for, you know, for how it should look for the residents in combination for safety for people who are on the platform at different times. Like it's not that safe when it's so high because you can't see the person, you know. Unfortunately, a lot of people hang out at railroad stations, right?
Yeah, they've had problems both at the station there, and if you go a little further south, down to Meadow Street, as you go under the trestle of Meadow Street, just to the left, there's a vegetation area, I'll call it, that has a gate on it, and the gate was open a good part of the summer. We couldn't get them to lock it. We actually had homeless people in there. We've tried to get them to trim the shrubs in there, and again, they're 6 to 8 months behind. I'm told it's on the list, but the whole area needs a real crew cut. You know, these shrubs should be cut back drastically. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to spend, you know, 3 or 4 days over there with everything else that we're doing. We do what we can, but it would be a massive effort to get that all cleaned up, because you also have to remember that extends up around Chestnut into 6th Street. You know, we also have to take care of those shrubs that come over the side and block the view there. It's it could use a complete re-landscaping with stuff that's a lot smaller and a lot less maintenance intensive.
We'll get Bruce Chester on this.
I got enough to do with me.
I think it's a valid suggestion. I think you're in charge of train station issues.
Okay.
Mainland and Hempstead.
Being you run the revamp with me, Charlie, you can be my assistant.
That's what I thought I was.
All right. Any comments from the audience?
Comments, we did cover.
Is that it? We done?
Yeah, we did cover. We went through non-agenda and agenda.
But we didn't have this on the, this hadn't even been discussed yet when you asked for comment.
You can talk about the train station.
You can talk, yeah.
Right.
Please. That's what I mean.
No, I didn't want to talk about it because it hadn't come up and it wasn't on the.
It just came up. So.
Perfect time.
Right. So, Robert Besley, 32 Goods. The station itself, looking at all these pictures and having this discussion and hearing from someone who's been on it for so many years actually using it, I don't take that station, I just know it and I'm aware of it and everything. The information I sent to everyone in the history of it just last night does point to Country Life Press as a publishing company and the history of that, you know, publisher coming to the Garden City in the day 1910 or so. And eventually they had, I guess the railroad built that for them, right? And that's why they call it Country Life Press. So there was this connection to the printing press history-wise. I can see the point Larry brought up about the people standing at the far end and not really using that end. While it's historical, and you know, I like to maintain and preserve historical things. That rendition that they actually showed us tonight that the railroad had is actually looking pretty good, you know. And perhaps that's, you know, the way we go. But if you were to restore that building, it would be nice, but not very usable for what you were kind of discussing and proposing. You know, what I was envisioning is, you know, I'm fortunate to have a real station, you know, Nassau Boulevard, you know, Stuart Manor, those are great stations where, you know, when you're walking over, you got a warm place to go, get a cup of coffee. In the summer, if you're, you know, walking 4 blocks and it's hot, you go in there, it's air conditioned. Again, freezing cold, it's warm. So it's a great, you know, spot to hang out before the train comes. And, you know, if you're not gonna create that, you know, then what's the purpose, right? Because if you're walking 4 or 5 blocks and it's freezing cold and you can walk into a warm place, that's a nice thing. If you're, you know, getting hot in the summer, you go in an air-conditioned place, that's a nice thing. But if we're not creating that, then why not just do this, you know? And the other option is if you want to go like a Stuart Manor or Nassau Boulevard, then take the building, restore it, make it larger, and bring a coffee shop in there. You know, maybe the diner who's coming on Franklin would want to put a satellite in there or something, you know, and have a spot in the morning. And it would change everything if you lengthened the building, made it a little bigger, or even moved it, you know, towards the middle of the platform. So you had a real place to go. But it's not a real place to go, you might as well just do this, you know, and I'm all for preservation, but this looks pretty logical to me right here, and you gotta make a decision by the 15th. You know, this looks pretty good, and I'm a preservationist, so I don't know what to tell you, unless anybody else wants to fight for the building. I mean,
I think
this is a pretty nice option right
your
here.
comments are very well taken, but I think what trustee Marciano was saying before, I agree with him 100% that we really have to get a pull from the residents.
Yes, absolutely.
About this station.
Oh, absolutely.
To see, and also determine the ridership, is the ridership going up or down? I have no
Right.
idea about the station. I know at the Stewart Manor Station that I take, you know, things are getting very busy now all of a sudden.
Right.
I see a lot of people moving going to the city and using that station, but that station's getting renovated.
Right.
So again, we just want to make sure that we understand what the residents are looking
Absolutely.
for, what we can accommodate. I don't think we're looking to expand the structure. I think we're trying to just see what, can we purpose it the way it is and do it, you know, cost effectively.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, finding out from the local people is the best way to go, you know, so I agree. Thank you very
The
much.
good news is you can get a seat at Curbside Fresh.
That's right, always, always.
Bob, thank you for your assistance, sending in the photos and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just comment also that I haven't gotten a draft of any type of agreement yet, so I don't know what kind of restrictions they might have on any use of the building or expanding, things like
I
that.
think they'll sell it to us for $1.
Yeah, but I don't know, I think there might be some covenants
Yeah, I
there.
think they'll sell it for $1.
In Veteran 301, Franklin, Mayor, I lived in that neighborhood for 15 years. I commuted there from 86 to 99. The neighborhood, the alphabet streets there have a lot of kids. I don't think we want to do anything that will attract any more attention over there of the kids. I would also suggest that that building probably hasn't been used in 50 or 60 years. So we moved in 36 years ago and it was boarded up. And someone said that it hasn't been used for about at least 50 years.
I didn't know that.
So I think the offer by the MTA seems pretty attractive. And you hate to say that, I don't like to say anything too nice about the MTA, but if they're gonna write a check for 600 Gs,
We'll take it.
I think we'd probably take it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Veneziali, trustees and staff members. Brian Panola, 56 Kingsbury Road. I have a completely different idea. First, I want to ask if anyone up here is a reader. Does anyone read books? No, up here. Any of you like to read books? Just Bruce? Oh, the other trustee, okay. Has anyone given any thought to the impact that Doubleday placed on the literacy and publishing industry in this country and probably throughout the world?
And baseball.
Maybe baseball, that was later in his life. People have completely forgotten about the significance of Doubleday and the history that it has here in Garden City. Not only the physical plant, the fact that they moved out here and they built such a beautiful building, but you can go anywhere in this country. I happen to be a book collector. You can go anywhere in this country, go to a used bookstore or a rare bookstore and thumb through the books and you'll find books from Doubleday and they say Doubleday Page and Company or Doubleday and Company, Garden City, New York. People all over the country see our name, our village name, Garden City, New York. We should not forget about that. My point is, we should not demolish the structure under any circumstances. I agree with the trustee that its day as a transportation facility is long gone. That shouldn't even be a consideration. My suggestion would be that we should make that building into a limited use museum dedicated to Doubleday Page and Company and all of its affiliates. And perhaps, I haven't discussed it with them yet, perhaps the Historical Society could operate it. Again, it would only be limited use, meaning school children want to make a visit, the Historical Society would arrange to open the building and lead the tours. Along those lines. I don't think the renovation costs would be as big as the MTA. Of course, when the MTA does something, it's always a major project. But it is still, even in its current condition, it's got merits, it's an attractive building, and we should, that would be another example of a good adaptive reuse, converting it to a museum. And we have to respect our older buildings. We're losing too many of them. We do not have landmark laws, and this would be a good example. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the idea, Brian. You're welcome. Thank you. Any other comments, please?
Catherine Nora, 4 Maryland Avenue. Going back to the polling of the people who live in that area, I just suggest that you be very careful about who you poll and how you poll, because there are many of us who were never asked our opinions, who live near the corner of, section of Houston Road that you have decided to close, that many of us were not even approached by anyone in the village or any petition that was being sent by the residents as to the fact that we wanted that section of the road. So a word to the wise, as they say. Just be careful when you're asking about what you want to do with Country Life Press. That it's the real residents that live there that are affected and who use that and look at that all the time. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kathy, if I could respond to that.
Yes, Bruce.
I reached out to you and explained to you what was going to happen with the project. Paul Rothenmiller has reached out to you. I called, I think, Nancy Fine, if I got her first name correctly. A petition went around. I mean, all the people that were involved in getting the petition aren't here, but I would have to think, and we asked them how many people said they'd be totally against it. I know you're not happy with it, because now when you're going down Nassau Boulevard and you're making a left onto Main Avenue instead of going through Houston Road, you gotta go a little further down once the project is completed to Wellington Road. But I think I'm sorry for the inconvenience for you and maybe for a few other residents, but I think overall, the benefit of the project in terms of blocking both the lights and the sound will be beneficial to the whole area and a good portion of the northern states. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been to enough of the POA meetings and enough of these meetings that I was well aware, and certainly with Paul's plans. I mean, have copies of them, and Paul and I had discussed it. But that's how I learned about the potential closing of that section of the road.
Right.
Had a discussion today with Nancy Vaughn. I wasn't going to bring it up, but might as well. To my knowledge, there are only 5 houses along Maryland and Main between Tannis Pond and Nassau Boulevard that actually face the tracks. The other homes, it's either a porch or a garage. So they don't have to look at those lights all the time as the other 4 residents that I do. I've become accustomed to it. You live in an area long enough. I don't hear the cars when they, hit bottom coming underneath the bridge. The freight trains sort of shake my house better than the steam engines that used to come through the area, so I don't have to go around and rearrange all the pictures on the walls. But I think my one neighbor had a good suggestion. And I know Paul's idea is excellent about enlarging or extending the parking areas. The way the MTA on the news today, they're lucky they're going to do anything except cause people not to take the train because the fares are going to go so high, and they're going to shorten the trains and eliminate tracks and eliminate, and as the Jewish people say, it's mashukah. It's a good word. But again, I I think my neighbor on Nassau Boulevard had a good idea. Let's temporarily block that section of Houston Road off and see how it affects everything before we break ground and spend a lot of money that we wish we didn't have to spend. And I know you've reached out to me. Nobody reached out to me more than Larry, Andy Kraus, I believe the man's name was, who used to ring my doorbell and tell me everything that was going to happen on the third track. The guy finally retired, he probably had it up to here with the MTA and the third track, okay? And I appreciate what you've done, Bruce, and Paul, you too. And is it going to really be a big hardship for me? No. The only situation, the fire hydrant is on the corner of Houston Road and Maryland. It's on the Nassau Boulevard side, it's not on the main side, which would mean that probably the fire engines would have to come down, not swoop around the parking area, but would have to go straight to hook up to that fire hydrant if they wanted to go down the rest of Houston Road.
Yes, so there is a hydrant at that location. We tested that back in June when we were requested to do so at the board's behest. It's actually in a fine spot for us to operate. In our report to the buildings department, if they were to close that lane off, we would just, as you mentioned, drive down the opposite lane.
Yeah, I mean, when I had a problem in my house, the engines pulled in front of my house, they didn't waste the time to go all the way around. I mean, it's only logical. But again...
That's because they like you.
Oh, of course. That's because I pay my taxes on time.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Kathy, I just want to comment, you've always been very helpful on this whole thing, and I can remember you having the first rally against these ugly monster poles on your front lawn, where we have the local politicians come out. So I've always appreciated that, and we certainly wanted to try to make it as amenable for you as we could. As I said, I think the majority of the residents will appreciate this, and it's not just the people on Main Avenue. It's people that live maybe as far as Newmarket, that go out of their house and turn to the right and see this bright Coney Island looking station. Nothing gets going on, but it's pretty bright. So it's not just the houses on Main Avenue we're looking to, make it a little more, a little bit better for in terms of what they're going to look at. So that was the purpose of the whole project, to do that, to do a good portion of the northern states people that they have to deal with. So again, as time goes on, you can knock on my door and yell at me whenever you want, because I'm not very far from you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Please come up, state your name, Bruce.
Paul Rutherford, 216 Kensington Road. Not to argue tonight, I want to report something positive. If you take a look over by Maryland Avenue Station from Meadbrook over to Roxbury, they put in significant Leyland cypresses, 12, 14, 16 feet tall, and it looks pretty nice, and a lot of neighbors that are happy with it. So, talking around, we're going to see maybe we can extend that somehow, get looking a little bit better. Thank you.
Oh, it's keeping you busy.
Any other comments, please?
We have Steve Velarde on Zoom. Would you like to unmute yourself? Thank you.
Yes, Steve Velarde, 139 Meadow. Regarding the Country Life Press station, as Ed said, it's been closed for 50 years. I don't ever remember it being open. It's been boarded up. There's been no talk of anybody wanting to do anything with it. Now all of a sudden they want to take it down and we need to make a museum. I don't think we should take it over. I don't think we should spend any money on it. I'm hesitant to say that we should have the railroad put a structure up because it'll have to be safe and ADA compliant, and we may have bright lights over there 24/7. Let them take the building down at their expense. Let them landscape it, and let's move on. I've used the station for a couple of years. I live in this section of town. I drive by it several times
you for your comments. Anyone else on Zoom?
No.
Have we seen that? I make a motion to close the meeting and go into an executive session.
Second.
I'll discuss personal matters.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.